Welcome to 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. Our goal is to showcase the stories of athletes and the community that supports them by being authentic about their journey. Here's your host, Jacoby Gillum.
Yo, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jacoby Gillum. This episode, it's a real good one. It's a lot about mental health, a conversation that sometimes does not get amplified the way it should, right? Because of the stigma, especially in sports. And it reminded me of why 9 Point first started 3 years ago, because we want to kind of help reduce the stigma. We want to kind of help athletes not feel alone on their journey. And Emily Potter, our guest today, her journey embodies all of that. She has this phrase that goes, mental health is just as important as physical health. And the way she describes it and what that means to her is something that we can all relate to. And I love how she's using her platform and her journey to kind of be an advocate for mental health in sports, and how she's kind of helping other athletes not feel alone on their journey. And so you're going to love her story. You're going to love what she's about as a person and what she's aiming to achieve. So I hope you enjoy her story, gain some value from her mental health tips and what you can maybe do to kind of help yourself or maybe help a friend that may be in need. So hope you enjoy, and let's get to it. So Emily, the question that everyone that comes on is, when you're younger as an athlete, what was one of your biggest dreams or goals you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, so when I was little, my first kind of dream when I was about 7 or 8 was just to play NCAA basketball, watching that on the TV with my dad. March Madness, we didn't get a lot of college games on TV when I was younger. It's a lot better now. But, there was always March Madness games, and, everyone in my family played basketball, and I knew I wanted to play. At that time, I hadn't started yet, but that was kind of my first dream.
So like a family affair for you, right? So was it almost like a way for you to bond with the family a little bit?
Yeah, I played a lot of team sports growing up, same with my sisters, and, loved being a part of a team. But my dad really loved basketball the most, and my mom as well. So, they were always excited to talk about it. I love, even now, talking about basketball with my dad. If we just turn on a game on TV, just watching a game together is still, one of my favorite things to do with him.
Are you beating him one-on-one?
Oh, I'm definitely, I'm definitely winning.
Awesome. So as you kind of progressed through basketball, you kind of started to love the game. When did you kind of think that I want to take this further than just, a family affair?
Yeah, I think in high school is when I started taking it more seriously, playing for the provincial team that we have, in my province in Canada. So every, state province across Canada has their team during the summer of the best players. And then you have nationals, and you come together and play against those teams. We did, go to AAU tournaments and everything as well. And that's kind of where I started to be like, okay, I could get noticed, this is my chance to be noticed by college coaches. And then in the 10th grade, I had my first opportunity to try out with the national team for one of their younger age groups. I think it was like a U16 team. And I never, ever thought playing basketball that, playing for Team Canada could be something that I could do. So that really opened my eyes to the possibilities. And then I set my sights on making that team. I got cut my first year, and then I came back the next year and made the U17 team.
So going on that, you said you were cut. So for you, when you were cut, how did you initially react?
I was super upset at first. I was one of the last 2 cuts. But I think, looking back, it was for the best. I was really young, and I needed to kind of mature, and both physically and mentally in the game of basketball. So I started to take things more seriously after that, and not just focus on the basketball aspect. So yes, I, had my alarm set. I would wake up early in the morning and get my shots in. And every time something was hard, I would just kind of, think back to I'm making this team next summer. But then I also, started to work out with a strength coach one-on-one, because I was really lanky, tall, 6'5" girl, same height that I am now, but 20 pounds lighter. And, started talking with a nutritionist, making sure I was eating better, talking with a mental coach to help me with that side of the game, to make sure I was covering all my bases, because there's so much that you can do off the court as well. I think a lot of people sometimes think, you just got to grind 24/7. You got to be working hard all the time. And I totally believe in that. And you do need to work hard, but I'm also a firm believer in taking days to rest, because sometimes that's what your body needs more, making sure you're getting enough sleep. So it's all part of the pie. There's so many pieces.
It's all part of the piece that kind of goes into achieving that athlete dream. So for you, you kind of realize that you needed more than just the basketball to make it, the next level. So how did you figure out this mental side of things? Or just in high school, how did you kind of figure out that was something you need? I know a lot of athletes, I know I did in high school, I didn't think about mental, I just thought about strength, the squats, bench press, the speed work. I didn't think about developing the mindset to be able to push through those tough moments when I can't rely on that.
Yeah, I think my body language was definitely sometimes an issue. It wasn't coming from a selfish place, I didn't think. But when you have bad body language, when you're personally struggling on the court, everyone else sees that and everyone else is affected by it. So if I, wasn't doing well, I felt like I was letting my team down, and then I would get down. But, you got to have a lot of energy to play basketball, and everybody feeds off each other, especially if you're a leader of a team like I was in high school. And I was just so hard on myself, which one, doesn't make the game very fun when you're always stressed about that. And two, I just brought everyone else down as well. So I really had to work to be okay with making mistakes, because basketball is a game of mistakes, right? Nobody makes all of their shots, nobody finishes the game, as a team with 0 turnovers. So that's what I try to tell myself. And even, what I tell younger players now, if I'm coaching or helping out, like NBA players, they miss shots. If you're shooting 50% from the field, that's pretty dang good. You're going to have games sometimes where it's really high. You're going to have games sometimes where your percentage is lower, but it all, should even out. And, mistakes and missed shots are a part of the game of basketball. So I just had to kind of change my mindset to understand that and build my confidence on the mental side.
And then go last question on that then. So for you, what was your driving factor? So what was driving you to want to be the best? Was it just internally, or was it an exterior factor?
Yeah, I think it's been mostly internally for me, just to see how good I can become. Every level I've progressed to so far, I've been pretty successful. So I'm okay, let's see what we can do next. And I just want to be the best Emily I can be. You don't have to go from the bottom to the top right away, but if you just make that 1% increase every single day, it's all going to add up. So I just try to, do myself justice, and I don't want to look back on my journey through sport or through life with any regrets. So just, give it your all and see really what can happen.
So that journey from year 2 of trying out for Team Canada to making it to college, how did that progress once you really started to, develop yourself as a complete athlete, mentally and physically?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helped make the transition to college easier and helped me get recruited. After I made the national team, I've been playing with them sporadically from summer to summer and training with them. And that's always, an amazing opportunity that I'll never take for granted, just playing against and playing with some amazing players. And recruiting wise, Utah, the university that I went to, actually saw me at Team Canada tryouts. There's been a long line of Canadians that have competed there. I think since the 90s, they've had at least one every single year on the team. When I was there, we had, 3 or 4 every single year. And I think there might've been 5 there this year. So they've really recruited that Canadian pipeline, which I love. It's kind of like a little piece of home. So, I was recruited by them, and then going to other AAU tournaments with other basketball teams. You get exposed to other college coaches and went through that process. And that was really hard. That was a really hard decision for me, because coaches put a lot of time and effort to get to know you. And I'm really big on loyalty. So that was hard to, tell schools that that wasn't the place I wanted to go. But I've never regretted my decision to go to Utah. And I'm really happy. That's my alma mater now. And I met so many great people and got to play in the Pac-12. But I think encompassing everything that I did, strength, mental wellness, nutrition, basketball all together, made that jump from high school to college a lot easier. And then playing for the national team also made that jump easier, because I had experience playing against other great players. I had experience being away from home. So it made it a lot easier for me to jump into my freshman year and not struggle as much, I think.
Utah was smart because, then called as Team Canada. The colors match.
Oh yeah, I've always, in high school my team was red, Canada's red, Utah's red. So I just, I love me some red.
You were sold. So now you're in college, you're a freshman, and now are you still thinking about Team Canada and trying to get to this next level? Or are you thinking I'm going to enjoy this college journey and see where it goes?
Yeah. So throughout college, I spent some summers training with the national team, but when you're in a college season, it can be really long, and it can definitely get to be a grind, and you just got to focus on, what's in front of you and not look too far ahead.
And so on that, then I guess what was your journey like when it comes to just kind of balance being the student athlete? Was it still having a social life as well, or were you all business?
Yeah, I think my teammates, we were a really unique mix of girls, but every single year I was in college, we got along so well. So, there's your socialization piece. I'm with my teammates every day. I live with my teammates. So I am a little bit more of an extrovert. I do need people to help me recharge, but I can also, be by myself. So you try to, make time to be with your teammates. Those are, your close friends or other athletes when you're a college athlete yourself. But when I got to college, I was really ready to just focus on that basketball aspect. So, I went to bed at 10 p.m. My first year, I was just tired from all the practices and the work. No matter how much you prepare yourself for it, it's an adjustment. You're going to be tired, so I accepted that. I knew that's how it was going to be. And that was fine with me because I really wanted to play basketball.
It was not the game.
Yeah. And I mean, schoolwork's always important as well. I don't want to just completely miss that part.
Student athlete.
Yeah, student athlete. My parents, when my sister, who's 2 years older than me, when we were growing up, they made it very clear that, if we didn't have, a really good grade point average, sports weren't going to be an option. So I always tried to prioritize schoolwork as well. But I'm the kind of person, I'm competitive in everything I do. And I just want to do well in everything I do. So whether that's basketball or, schoolwork or playing Monopoly against you, I want to win and I want to do well. So I don't ever want to sell myself short. So I try to divide up the time as best as you can and make sure you're doing the best that you can in every aspect.
Hey, Monopoly, I'll get Boardwalk, it's over.
Right.
So in college, what was the hardest moment for you, or a moment when you said, man, can I keep going through this?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely were more than a few bumps along the road, in my college experience. My sophomore year in September, right before, we're getting ready to start practice, I tore my ACL. Mm-hmm. So obviously that was hard going through the whole process, sitting out the whole year. But I mean, it just really solidified that this is what I love to do. I love to play basketball. And throughout all my injuries, that's, kind of what it always comes down to. I know I still love basketball and I'm okay, I'm just going to have to do the work to get back to playing and we'll go from there. So that experience my sophomore year really taught me a lot about myself. And you kind of got to start from square one and build yourself back up, learning how to run again, how to play basketball. And there's a lot of mental doubts on that side of, okay, I just didn't play basketball for a year. That's the longest I've gone without this sport since I started. Am I even going to be good anymore? And you got to just trust in the process and trust that the rehab you're doing every day and the work that you're doing every day is going to get you back to where you need to go. You can't be scared of stepping on that court and re-injuring yourself. You've spent hundreds, thousands of hours in the training room. So I just tried to, once I was on the court, I wasn't going to think about any of that. And I was just going to enjoy playing because I was without it for so long. So that was definitely challenged me on, the mental side of the game and mental strength or whatever you want to call it, just navigating how to be away from the sport and finding your identity outside of sport. And I know a lot of athletes struggle with that transition after they leave college, right? You've left college, you're no longer a student athlete. And for so much of your life, that was your identity. So I kind of already went through that my sophomore year. Yes, I was still on the team, but I wasn't a basketball player. So that helped me realize that I am a basketball player, but it's what I do. It's not who I am. And then another mental struggle I had was my senior year, the start of my senior year. One of my close friends passed away due to suicide. And that was a completely different, struggle that I went through because it wasn't related to basketball at all. It wasn't mentally how I was doing on the court. It was just like, it was life, that's some heavy life stuff. And through that grief process, I struggled with my own depression to the point where like, I didn't really want to play basketball. And so then it was affecting my basketball because I didn't want to do it anymore. And that's when I knew that, I needed to reach out and get help because I know I love basketball. But at that time, I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't really want anything to do with a lot of things in life. So going through that process and then speaking out about mental health has been really big for me to help myself and then in turn be able to help others. And I've just learned so much about myself in that process. And yeah, that's probably like what I'm most proud of myself is just, speaking out about mental health and, overcoming those challenges.
That's awesome in so many ways because mental health is just like a big conglomerate of things, right? Think about the sport and then you're saying, how do I still love this game? Even though like I'm having a hard time waking up every day and stuff like that. So for you, what would you say is the first step if someone just can figure out themselves and trying to work through this funk that they just feel?
Yeah, I mean, self-awareness, is obviously super important. And that took me a while to even realize like, okay, like what I'm going through like might be depression. I didn't want to say those words to myself, didn't want to talk about it. And I thought I could deal with it by myself. Mental health issues, whatever it may be, can make you feel really isolated and make you feel like nobody understands what you're going through. But what I try to do, and spread the message is that like, there's a lot of people that go through it. Like a lot of people know what you're going through and have experienced it themselves. And that's why we need to talk about it so you don't feel so alone and feel that stigma surrounding it. So yes, people do understand what you're going through. And then it's the steps to, try to reach out for help. And that can be really hard in some places, lack of resources, lack of accessibility. And I think we have a long way to go still with how we treat mental health because it's health. You have your physical and mental health, but if you are physically healthy, but you don't have mental health, then what's the point? Like you're not getting out of bed, you're not doing the things that you want to do or may love. So you need both of those pieces to be well and to be able to, function in society and have a meaningful life. So reaching out for help can be, a friend to confide in and lean on them.
That's one reason why I started 9 Point, right? Because I was one of the athletes that went through that mental health stuff and I thought I was so alone, right? And plus, because I was scared to voice it because I was like, man, I'm Jacoby the athlete. I can't have mental health problems. That's like the stigma, right? So how do you tell an athlete that it's okay not to be okay? Kind of break down that wall and that fear of shame or whatever it may be to tell somebody, say, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, I think, it starts kind of like as a ripple effect and you just have to be willing to be vulnerable and know that vulnerability is strength. And I know for a long time as athletes, we've been taught like push through, like you need to be tough, like no showing signs of weakness in terms of being on the court or whatever sport you're in and not showing that weakness while you're playing. And I think that can be damaging, but that's just the way it was. But on the mental side, like it's okay to be vulnerable, like all of my struggles make me stronger. They make me more compassionate and more understanding of other people. And it's really scary to take that leap. But when you open up to one person, if that person doesn't support you, then you don't want those type of people in your life. That's the point we're at right now. It's 2020. If you're confiding in somebody about your mental health and they aren't being supportive, you just got to find somebody else that does. And there's so many other free resources, to help you if you feel like you're alone and you haven't found anybody to talk to yet either, whether it be online, help phone lines, or if you can, if you have coverage, if you can afford it, talking to psychologists, counselors, even if it's just a couple times, they can help you and give you so many tools to help navigate what you're going through.
That's dope. And you got a fire article too for, like I was reading through it and the words you use kind of paint the picture that we can all relate to. Just like you said, like you're not alone.
Yeah. And That article now is just over 2 years old, right? So I wrote it in my senior year at Utah in the spring, and I actually just read it back. So I think it was like close to when, the 2 years was, you get the notification, here's your memories on Facebook, whatever, social media. So I read that article and it was really crazy to me. Like I hadn't read it obviously in a long time. And it was crazy looking back just at my own progress. And it really brought tears to my eyes. Like that's the place that I was in, and where I was writing from at that time was super authentic to me and my experience. But I'm in such a better place now. And it's amazing to look back and see kind of like the progress I've made. And I just think that's testament to that. Like it does get better. It can get better. I've learned so much about mental health and how to work on myself. And I've had my ups and downs, but like I'm in the best place that I've been in since I wrote that article.
And effective to the ACL, to your friend passing away, it make you almost kind of build like this calluses.
Yeah, I definitely, agree with that analogy. And I don't want any of those experiences to kind of make me a harder, more closed off person. They've taught me lessons, they've helped shape me to who I am. We're all every one of us is the sum of our experiences, right? So you just have to try to take those lessons and learn from it. They have made me, a stronger person, but definitely also more compassionate and willing to listen to others, because myself personally, before I had my own mental struggles, didn't really pay any mind to mental health or wellness outside of the scope of basketball, right? Like I was focused on how can I be mentally great on the court, but I never thought of it off the court. I never put those things together or talked about mental health with any of my friends or anybody I knew, and they could have very well been struggling. And if they approached me, I don't know how I would have reacted. And, that upsets me that I, didn't know sooner. So what can I do now to try to, I guess, spread that message?
So once you graduated, what were your thoughts? It was like, okay, I'm going to go get a 9 to 5, or like, I'm going to go WNBA, I'm going to go overseas. What was your game plan?
Yeah. So after I finished my senior season, it's kind of a crazy process. I got an agent, ended up getting invited to a training camp in the WNBA, went through that process, ended up getting cut, and then did some training with the national team that summer while trying to find a team to sign with in Europe. So it can be definitely stressful because it's up in the air. People are asking you all the time, what's next? What's next? What's next? And you don't always know yet, even though I knew like, yeah, I'm going to go play overseas. I didn't know where I was playing. So if you think about it, it's really actually crazy. Let's say it's June. That's when I signed my first year. But before I signed, it's June. I don't know where I'm going to be living in 2 months, in what country. I'd never been there before. I don't know any of the people. And I literally moved across the ocean, never having met any of these people. I talked to them on the phone, maybe FaceTime them. And I'm going into a completely foreign country. So really have to have a lot of faith in yourself and faith in the process that things are going to work out. And I mean, you can control the narrative of, what people are asking you. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming, like, oh, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And you just got to really take a minute, think about how you want to address that and answer that. And you can, say what you need to say to them without being mean, even if you are frustrated about all the people like coming up to you, and be like, yeah, I'm in the process of figuring it out, but everything's going to be okay. I trust the process. Yeah. And, that's all you need to say. Yeah. And I kind of learned that. So last year, I went to Poland for a few months and I ended up getting injured, and it was just best for me to come home, have surgery here and rehab and be at home. So that's what I did. But, during that time, of course, everyone's asking you like, oh, how you doing? How's your rehab going? Like, what's going on? And at that point, like my rehab wasn't going good. It was a really long process and it was really challenging doing it by myself here at home. And, I talked to a sports psychologist about it, and she was like, you just got to prepare like what you want to say about it, and you can change the narrative however you want. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to tell people, like, you can be honest and tell people, it's been an up and down struggle, but I'm going to make it through it. It's going to be okay. You don't have to always say, yeah, it's all good if you're not feeling good. You can be authentic to yourself and tell people that you're struggling without
Open up.
Bringing them down the process.
Yeah. So you went to Poland, that was a different culture, right? Compared to,
yeah.
And then you came back home and recovered, and you went overseas and you was it Italy, correct? Am I right on
I was in Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. Okay.
Yeah.
So how was Czech? How was that beast of just learning the culture and all the other stuff?
Yeah, it was a super good experience, I think. And just, making it through the season healthy was a win for me personally. That first year after injury sometimes can be a little stressful. So really made sure I was taking care of my body. And I tried to take advantage of, traveling to places nearby, getting to know my teammates. And they all, thankfully spoke good English. So that was a definite plus.
You got some soul food too, right?
Yeah, that was in Budapest. I tried lots of different types of food, and I was eating good and playing a lot of basketball and just trying to make the most of the opportunity to be in Europe, where everything is, there's so much history, there's so many places to travel, but then also making sure you're taking care of your body and getting that rest as well.
So what's your game like? Are you a flashy, center forward? Or are you like, what's your style?
Yeah, I don't think I'm a flashy player at all. I'm a center, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know people want to, have the jelly or whatever and be playing that way. And I appreciate that. I appreciate so many different types and aspects of things about basketball. But for me, it's my job when I get the ball to score. Scoring is something that I've always loved to do. And being a post, when you get the ball in the post, that's your job. That's what you get to do. So unless you're double teamed or something like that, I can just, try to score. So yeah, I love scoring on offense. I love fast breaks, just, beating opponents down the floor and getting easy post ups. That's the easiest way for me to score because the defense isn't set or anything like that. So getting out and running is something I really like to do. Defense, obviously, I've always loved blocking shots, with my height, but I definitely feel like I've put more of a focus on defense this year with my feet and footwork and that kinds of things. And being a post when you're on defense, you're kind of like the last line of defense, right? On offense, the point guard sees the whole floor and, my back's to the basket. But when I'm on defense, I'm the last line of defense, usually closest to the basket, and I can see the whole floor. So it's really important to, talk and communicate and let everyone else know what's going on around you, because I can see all those things. So I love talking on the floor in that regard and, making sure we're all working as one unit.
A cheerleader.
I try, but I feel like I've always enjoyed like a leadership type of role for sure.
So season coming to an end, right? And we kind of got this world pandemic. Like, what are your thoughts on what am I doing next? Like, Emily, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I am still hoping to play basketball professionally next year. And in the meantime, I'll be training at home and just trying to, fill my days as much as I can while still staying at home for the most part. And, listening to what health officials are saying. I think it's important to everybody to take it seriously and take some time to slow down. I think that could be beneficial for everybody. And I know it's a really stressful time, and I don't want to minimize that. There's people that can't work, people that are scared to go to work, scared to go outside because of, the health risks. And, we need to take precautions. But I think we can also, hopefully in this time with more free time, slow down, figure out what's important to us, and find time to do what we need to do, but also do some things that we love that we might not normally get to.
What are you doing? I know the last call you said you're watching Love is Blind. I know you're a foodie. So what's you doing while you kind of have this break?
Yeah, so I've gotten into yoga. I've been doing yoga every day now for the last week, and I'm hoping to just keep doing that every morning when I wake up. It's something that, I've done sporadically, but now I get a chance to really commit to it with the time that I have. And then, other various workouts, biking, weight workouts, in the basement, just trying to get a sweat on, get moving. I've been cooking, a little bit more. My dad's a really good cook. So, he always is teaching me different recipes, and we're together in the kitchen, eating, cooking, that type of thing. I have been watching some Netflix, but actually a lot less than usual. I got my coloring books, I got puzzles, I got my sewing machine. So I got a lot of different hobbies to kind of keep me busy.
How good are you at sewing? Like, are you like legit with it, or are you?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
So, I've sewn not actual articles of clothing, but I'll alter my own clothing. I've been making some hair scrunchies. So I'm just progressing my way up to, make my own shirt is the first thing I'm going to attempt.
That's legit. I got these fat fingers, though. For me, like sewing, I stabbed myself. I'm like,
I still definitely do stab myself when I'm doing it, little things by hand, but you just got to power through.
Power through. Cool. And then last question for you. So mental health wise, what are some great resources out there that athletes can kind of look into when they want to figure out their mental side?
There's a lot of, counseling and I guess online counseling services that I think are really great. If you're don't want to meet with somebody in person, if you're curious about, talking to a counselor, a lot of them have free trials for a couple weeks where you can talk to somebody, whether it be over FaceTime, over the phone, over text, if you're really struggling and want to reach out to somebody that way. Otherwise, there's tons of different, organizations for mental health, fundraisers that you can get involved in. In Canada, we have the Canadian Mental Health Association, a really big one here. Another one that I really like, I follow all their Instagrams. I read all the quotes. I'm super big into quotes. So I love, reading stuff that they kind of put out there that can kind of just help you feel better in your day-to-day life, whether it be tips on how to deal with anxiety or just, a message or a quote of somebody saying that, you're not alone. I really like the company To Write Love on Her Arms. It's TWOHLA. That's her Instagram account. So, that was started in honor of somebody that they lost and loved. So there's so many different fundraisers, accounts, things like that. If you just, even search them up on Google. And, me and my friends organized a fundraiser as well for my friend that passed away. And so we have our own Instagram account. We share stuff as well. So Sarah Strong fundraiser _ that's our account. And we, try to raise money for mental health initiatives in my city and just break that stigma around mental health.
Awesome. I love it. There's mental health as well, physical health, right?
Yeah, mental health is just as important as physical health. That's kind of one slogan we came up with. And I think it's really important if you're an athlete or not.
Boom. Then the real last question for you, social media wise, where are you at?
Yeah, my social media is at mpotter10, EMPotter10. That's all my social media is the same handle. It's nice and easy.
Okay, boom. Well, Emily, it's great having you on again. Kind of learn more about your story and kind of see how you're progressing during this time and what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yo, thanks for listening to this episode of the 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, leave a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can find more athlete-driven content at 9point.com. Till the next episode, you're only one opportunity away. Peace.